All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for Irrigation 101, brought to you by Tarrant Regional Water District in the city of Fort Worth. And before we start our presentation, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping and tell you about some stuff. If you have any questions throughout the whole presentation, you can type them there in the question and answer box, and our speaker will get to you at the end of the presentation, and we'll answer all questions. And if we don't get to your question during the presentation, we'll make sure to follow up with an email answer. There's also some handouts in the control panel. So our speaker will be talking about some information, and some of the details of that information and the summary of it is there in those handouts, and that can be really helpful. So make sure you go ahead and download that at some point in time. Our speaker tonight is Dr. Dotty Woodson. She's an irrigation expert and a former AgriLife extension agent. And my name is Heather Bass. I am a conservation coordinator at Tarrant Regional Water District, and I'll be moderating today. We also have a few folks from the city of Fort Worth joining us tonight, and so they'll be here if you have any Fort Worth specific questions. Speaking of Fort Worth, here's some stuff that's going on. A few of these things have already happened, but some things are still happening. Let's see, there's Yard Smart is coming up in the fall on September 18th, and that's going to be an awesome conference all about North Texas yard care. And there's also some Brit education classes coming up, and also a Your Better Yard series that is coming in the summer. So make sure to check that out. Go to SaveFortWorthWater.org to check out all of those events that are happening, and then all of their water saving resources. And they've also got some really cool stuff there, like this Drop Family animated series there. So make sure you go there to check that out. Also, if you're a Fort Worth resident, we're offering free sprinkler test kits. So again, the speaker will talk a little bit about how to use this and how to test your own sprinkler. But check your email whenever you're done with this presentation, and we'll send you instructions on how to go to your local library and pick up one of those kits for free so you can test your sprinkler. Like I said, this presentation is also sponsored by Tarrant Regional Water District, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about TRWD. We provide the infrastructure that is needed and the maintenance of various reservoirs to carry raw surface water from those reservoirs to water treatment plants. And then our cities then take that raw water and they treat it to drinking water standards in those water treatment plants, and then they provide it to our homes and businesses. And so the reason why Tarrant Regional Water District cares about offering you some of these great classes like this is because water conservation really is an important strategy to continue to provide water to our growing population in the future. And so you can go to SaveTarrantWater.com to figure out or to look at some of our resources that we have there for water conservation. You can sign up for free weekly watering advice that is custom to your location, lets you know exactly how much based on the weather that week you should water your grass. You can also go and sign up for a free sprinkler evaluation where a licensed irrigator will come to your house and give you an educational sprinkler evaluation, look at your sprinkler and let you know if there's any water waste and exactly how much your sprinkler is using whenever you turn it on. There's also a calendar of events and classes just like this one, and lots of cool water saving tips and videos. And some of the other things that we do is partner with other organizations like Texas A&M AgriLife Extension or the Tarrant County Master Gardeners to provide some of this awesome stuff for you. All right, so that is all I have to say, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our speaker. Like I said, her name is Dr. Dotty Woodson, and she is an irrigation expert. Dotty, I'm going to go ahead and give you permission to share your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. We call it 101 because this is sort of a beginner's class. I know a lot of you might be very proactive looking at your sprinkler systems, and that's what this is all about. This is talking about the big issues of sprinkler systems. And so what if I tell you that research shows that 50% of the water applied during the summer goes into your sprinkler system? So think a minute, about 50% of the water bill part of your water bill, that doesn't make any sense at all, does it? But your water bill has other charges on it, you know, like your wastewater charge, your environmental charge, your stormwater charge, your garbage pickup, your recycle pickup. It has other charges on it the top line is always the water that you use. And if you look across and see how much that's costing you, it'll also tell you exactly how much they're charging, because there is a tiered water bill. And so if you use over 6,000, gallons, it bumps up to the next cost, which is a very, very high increase, but it is a little bit. And that's to encourage people to conserve water. And so the other thing is about 50% of the water applied by irrigation runs off your property or evaporates. This is what research shows. And a little bit of this is because everyone doesn't quite understand how to diagnose what's going on with their sprinkler system. And so that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. But we want to talk about how a sprinkler system works. And we want to talk about the schedule, how you schedule when your sprinkler system should come on. Now, I hope that you heard how Heather said that Tarrant Regional Water District has a free irrigation checkup, where they will actually send an irrigator to your property, turn your sprinkler system on with you there, because it's an educational thing for you to go around with that licensed irrigator and look at your sprinkler system, and he can point out to you everything that could make your irrigation system more efficient. If it's too high a pressure, too low a pressure, it's not spraying in the right direction, your nozzles are clogged, all these things can be pointed out to you. And he actually writes a report and gives you a copy, and he keeps a copy if you need to refer back to, his copy. It's a really, really valuable thing to you, and it's free. And the reason why they're doing this is because of this right here, where research shows that 50% of your irrigation water could be running off your property. So we're going to be talking about that. And then the irrigation water is the same water that you drink. It comes out of the sinks that comes through the meter, just like the water that goes into your house that you use for drinking and cooking and, flushing your toilets and taking showers, all of this. It's the same water. It goes to a water treatment plant and is cleaned up to drinking water standards. It's very important that you understand that, because a lot of people I don't think, understand that. Because when I say something like that, I get this, what? Look on their face. So, please understand that. The most common irrigation issues is this very, very first one, inefficiency. And I hate to say, but the other one is actually overwatering, running your sprinkler systems for too long a period of time, and the ground's not absorbing it, and therefore it's running off. That could be it. Too much pressure, that's getting to be a bigger issue as more and more homes, are built, and pressure has to be, a little bit higher to get it further and further from the water treatment plant. And then poor design and installation. Now, that's not always right at first, because the landscaper and the irrigator work together and get it all done real correctly. But if you change your landscape, and we were just talking about having to replace dead shrubbery and everything, but you also might want to expand your beds. You might want to put some ground cover in instead of turf grass, where turf grass won't grow in the shade any longer. You have to change. If you change your design, you have to change your system, the way you're watering. And then poor irrigation schedule. We're going to talk a lot about this, because a lot of people don't know how to figure out how to do their irrigation controller, and what is that schedule? What should that be? And so we're going to try to explain how to do that. And it, then you go to your controller and actually put that into effect. Again, I'm going to mention that free irrigation checkup, because one of the things that licensed irrigator will do while he's on your property with your permission is he will set up a schedule for you, that's very, very reasonable for the type of equipment that you're using, whether it's spray or drip or rotors. And that's a really, really good service that he could do that. And then no routine maintenance. You know, like I was saying, how many of us turn it on during the day and let it run for a while and actually look and see if the sprinkler system is working correctly? Is there a lot of water shooting out over here and hardly any over here, that type of thing? So we need to discuss that. How to prevent runoff, we're going to talk about that. Changing your landscape design and therefore changing your sprinkler. And then compacted soil, because we have heavy clay soil, or most of us do. Having compacted soil prevents the water from entering the soil and going down in through the soil where you want the plant roots to be. The deeper that the plant roots grow, the better off they are with irrigation infrequently instead of frequently. And right now, in most of our areas, we're limited to 2 days a week watering. In some areas, they're limited to 1 day a week watering. So, boy, you have got to make sure that irrigation system is very efficient in order to have your landscape look good all through the summer. But first of all, you have to understand that we have irrigation rules. We have our state rules, we have our city rules. And one of the things that is required by a licensed irrigator before they can get an irrigation permit to put an irrigation system in for you is this. This is an irrigation design worked out on someone's computer. Here's a list of all the equipment that is needed, you know, the compass points. Here's your driveway, here's your wonderful home, your patio area, your sidewalk, everything's in here. But now notice that's not with the landscape design, but everything is in there. Every piece of equipment is identified. And that's what I'd like you to know. What is that equipment? How does that equipment work? And why that controller is so important for you to have an efficient system. And so all these blue circles, see there's half circles or quarter circles. Notice that these circles all overlap and overlap and overlap all the way. The half circles, the quarter circles, the full circles, they all overlap. And this is a new design thing since 2009. This was initiated by Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, who makes the irrigation rules. Now they pass those rules onto the cities, and the cities can add to that. I know that eventually you might learn that the narrow strips of landscaping, like between your sidewalk and your street, or your sidewalk and your garage, your driveway, you know, those narrow strips that are have impervious surfaces on 2 or 3 sides, needs to be put in drip irrigation for all new systems. They didn't make it retroactive, so we all have to go back and change that, although I'll show you pictures of that change, and you might admire that and want to do that. But overlapping, whereas the old design before 2009, which some of us had, because our systems were put in before these new rules came into existence. And so you have to realize they were not this is what's called head-to-head coverage, where the one sprinkler is going to the other sprinkler. It's head-to-head coverage. Whereas before it was let's meet in the middle type design. And of course, as the nozzles sort of wear out, we sort of lose that effect of doing that, and so we get hot spots, what we call dry hot spots, particularly if the sun hits it. So you might not have this landscape design. Your irrigation system might be way older than 2009, and I just want you to know these rules exist. These designs are put out for a reason, because if we have all our heads overlapping, meeting the water, you know, we're getting water from 2 nozzles or 3 nozzles or even 4 nozzles as sprinklers instead of 1. And that means our run times can be shorter. That makes it more efficient. All kinds of reasons that they changed these rules. And so I don't know if your irrigation system is, you know, 30 years old, 25, 20, you know, how old it is. And you might look into this if you make any changes, changing it so yours overlaps more. Now, the parts of an irrigation system I think you should all know about is, first of all, this is your water meter. It's usually out on the curb, some near the curb, where the water department can open up your box, or in some areas of Fort Worth are actually reading it electronically. And the main line that comes out of this goes straight into your house, And that's where you get all your water uses for in your house, whatever way you're going to use it. And then there's a T somewhere along here. Now, the newer systems will also have what is called a backflow prevention device. And this is so none of your irrigation water will back into your household water or your city water. This is very, very important to have. Now, that is required on all new irrigation systems, particularly commercial ones, but not necessarily do we, with older systems, have those backflow prevention devices. And so this is something that if you ever go and, redo your irrigation system, this is something that you're going to want to put in. The first thing after the backflow prevention device is what we call a master valve. Again, if your system is very, very old, you might not have that. What a master valve is, a valve is something that opens and closes and lets the water go forward. And it's attached electronically or by wire to your irrigation controller. Your irrigation controller is usually in your greenhouse, your garage or somewhere like that where it's protected from the weather. Mine's in my greenhouse. But this is what you have to understand, how all of this works. Okay, so the master valve, when your start time comes on, that opens and it stays open for all the different zones or stations that you have. And so as we go on down the main line, I'm going to go back one. Now, if you look right here, this is your main line, your meter, your backflow prevention device, and look how it goes. It goes all the way down the side yard, all the way through the backyard, the other side yard, and then through your front yard. Now, sometimes it's connected under your driveway, so it's a loop, and that adds to the efficiency of it, but not always. I want you to understand what that main line is, because off of every main line, there's going to be a T to make what we call the lateral line, and the lateral line is where your sprinklers are. And so right off this T, off your main line, there's going to be an irrigation valve that opens and closes according to what you've scheduled on your irrigation controller. Think of your irrigation controller sort of like an alarm clock. You put a start time in there, and then that opens the master valve, or you might not have a master valve, but it'll open the first valve if not. And then a run time, and then it'll go to the next valve and open that, and it'll run like you've scheduled it, that you've programmed it to run. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Very important for you to understand. So the wires off of this, are in the ditch with everything, and they go back to that irrigation controller. And so it's your controller, and so you're going to schedule how you think your landscape needs to be watered. But we would like to give you some helpful hints about how to do that. Now, there's one other device I'm going to bring up, and did you see this fly in here? This is called a pressure regulator. And so if there's so much pressure going through your line, you might need a pressure regulator between your master valve and your backflow prevention device. It always comes after your backflow prevention device. Very important for you to understand. So we'll show you some pictures of what we want you to understand what too much pressure does. Now, so how much of your water bill is irrigation water? Like I said, I can look at my bill, and my water is the top line, and it tells me how much water I've used, and then it tells me how much I'm being charged for it. And then I have a wastewater charge, and then I have an environmental charge, a stormwater charge, a garbage pickup charge, a recycle pickup charge. I have all these charges on here, and I can tell you right now, every now and then my husband complains about how high the water bill is, and he says you're using too much water. The water bill's too high. And I'm going, no, I'm using the same amount I always use unless you're taking more showers than normal. And of course, you know, he denies that. But I look at the bill and I see what the water charge is and the wastewater charge is. And then I see what all those other charges is. And in the dead of the winter, the other charges are sometimes higher than the actual water charge on the water bill, because I'm not irrigating in the winter. It's very, very rare that you need to water during the winter. So my irrigation controller is usually on off during the winter. Now, if we go, 15 days without any rainfall, I might run it, but I'm not going to run it the same amount of time that I run in the summertime. We don't need that much water. And so I would cut that in half, or maybe even cut it by 3/4 the run time. And I'll show you how to do that on a controller. So for you to understand this, how much water is on your bill, I want you to look at your bill and see if you can figure it out. But the other way is what's called the meter method. You go to your meter box and open it up and write down the number that's here. How many gallons does it have listed right now? And then you run your sprinkler system just like it would normally run, the normal schedule. And then you go back and read the meter after the irrigation system finishes running all the different zones. And then you subtract the first number from the second number. And then the answer is gallons used just for your irrigation system. And, that just sort of, wow. I didn't know I used so little, or wow, I didn't know I used so much. Whatever the wow is, it's good for you to understand how many gallons your system is putting out. This might interest you if you think it's way, way too much. If you think that water charge is way, way too much, it might interest you to make sure your sprinkler system is working correctly and efficiently, mainly. And so, this is you might call Tarrant Regional Water District and line up an irrigation checkup for that. The backflow prevention device, usually we use a double check valve, but sometimes an RPZ is required. It's usually put in after it branches off your main line that goes into your house to prevent irrigation water from backing up. These, to manufacturer specification, are required to be installed above the ground. I have a very, very old system, and mine is actually in a box in the ground. And with the new rules, they want it above the ground. And so this was installed at our community garden at the University of Texas at Arlington. And you can see it's above the ground. And now one of the things that you can do with these things is they can be wrapped, so they won't freeze. And then you can also, they have wonderful, wonderful artificial rocks that you could put over them to protect them from freezing. And so the wrap and the artificial rock, it comes in gray and brown and different colors. This is something you're going to see much more. They just have plain Jane green boxes that they put over. And with some simple landscaping around this, because it's not that you're going to get into there very often. You probably never. But eventually we have inspectors that inspect your backflow prevention device to make sure that it's working correctly. Your irrigation valve, it gets a signal, from your controller, and it opens up this plunger right here and allows the water to come through. Now, you notice that this part, which is called a lateral line, this is your main line, lateral line, it's always full of water unless you put that master valve in right after your backflow prevention device. And the only, the super good advantage to that, this doesn't happen often, but it is a nice thing to have that master valve in there, because if any of the lines break, this is very rare that it does because it's so deep in the ground, but if any of those break, the water just comes and comes and comes and comes, and you can lose several thousand gallons of water before you get over to the meter or the backflow prevention device to turn the irrigation water off. And so this is something that you all have to realize, that this is always, always under pressure. And that's why you lose so much so fast. Now, once this opens up and the signal from your irrigation controller stops, and it goes back down and closes the seal on this O-ring here. Now, the water comes out here and goes and pops up all your sprinkler heads or your rotor heads and irrigates the way it's been designed to irrigate. And I hope it covers your area real well. We're going to talk about how to figure that out. Now, if you have a sprinkler head somewhere down along here that is weeping, weeping, weeping after everything pops down and turns off, it's usually the lowest head. And as soon as all that is out and dribbles out of there, then it doesn't lose any more. But every now and then, very rare again, but you need to know that it can happen. If this doesn't seal down really, really, really good, and you have one that's leaking, leaking, leaking all the time, then that's something to look at. And this is very easy to open this up and go in and wipe that off with a wet towel or rag or something to make sure it seats back down and closes tightly. This is your sprinkler head, and they call it a sprinkler head. We call it an irrigation device, but we call it a sprinkler head. And what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to put water out like a rain, like a sprinkle. That's why it's called a sprinkler. And so let's look at all the parts of this. Most of us, and it's required now, use 4-inch sprinkler heads, 4-inch, 4-inch. And of course, then this riser is going to pop up 4 inches. And the reason 4 inches is what we all recommend is because during the summer, we always recommend that you let your grass grow taller, not shorter, taller, in order to shade the soil and shade the new grass blades coming up. In order to get that proper distribution of water, we need that to pop up that 4 inches, because usually we're allowing grasses to get up 3 inches and then cutting them back down to 2 inches. And then the next week we'll do the same thing. So this is very important that you understand the why of everything. This is where the soil is supposed to go. This is the cap that is keeping the spring and the riser in there. This is what's called a wiper. And what the idea here is when this pops back down, it's not going to take any soil debris, leaves, or grass clippings with it that might clog up the most important part, which is this, the nozzle. And the nozzle is what determines how far the water is going to go. Is it going to go 3 feet? Is it going to go 6 feet? Is it going to go 8 feet? 18 feet, how far is that water going to go? And this nozzle is what determines that. Also, it determines the pattern. Is it going to be a full circle, a 3/4 circle, a half circle, a quarter circle, or in the little strips of landscaping between our driveway and our house, or between our road and our sidewalk? We might have a nozzle that goes side to side. It sprays side to side. So it's not going out in the street. It's not going up against your house, those narrow areas near your house. It's going into the landscaping. You don't want water to hit your house, your fence, your road, your driveway, your sidewalk. And then I want everyone to understand, right in the center of this nozzle, there's a little adjustment screw there. And if you tighten that down, that's going to put more pressure and therefore throw the water a little bit further, or you can loosen it to throw it not so much. Doesn't change the pattern in any way at all. It just changes the distance. These nozzles are hand tightened onto here, and very important for you to understand, you can replace that nozzle if it's not the right type of nozzle, because you've expanded your landscape or planted something else. You can do that yourself. We have another class that we call irrigation quick fixes, and we go through that very carefully. So this is what you need to be your friend. This is not a VCR. It's more like an alarm clock. And so we have to treat it that way. And so the first thing that you program into it by using these up and down keys and this LCD screen is the current day and time. This is so important because a lot of cities require we only water 1 day a week or 2 days a week, or assign those days of the week. I think in my neighborhood, all the odd addresses do it Thursday and Sunday, and even addresses do it Wednesday and Saturday. And so we need to know this. We need to know the times that we're allowed to water. In our city, we are allowed to water from midnight to 10 o'clock in the morning, and then from 6 o'clock to midnight again. We're not allowed to water during the heat of the day. This is very important because so much of our landscape water, irrigation water, is lost to evaporation. So we really need to get this programming right. These are usually have a battery in it, battery backup. So if you lose your electricity, it keeps your schedule for you. If you turn it to off, it'll keep your schedule for you. It's a computer chip, so you don't need to be too afraid of, you know, losing electricity or anything like that. But you do maybe need to check the battery every year, like you check your smoke detector battery. The next thing that we schedule is what is called the start times. So we have the day and the correct time, you know, program, and now we want to do a start time. And a start time means that this controller is going to open up that first valve, you know, at that time you set. So if you set that for 3 o'clock in the morning, your sprinkler system is going to go on at 3 o'clock in the morning. But notice it says start times. So we could actually have more than one start time. And I'm going to introduce you to a schedule called cycle and soak, where you might schedule 2 start times or 3 start times, and then your controller will run your irrigation system 2 times or 3 times instead of 1 time. This is very, very helpful in areas where we have very, very heavy clay, compacted soil, because it takes a lot of time for that water to break the surface tension of the clay and start penetrating the clay. Unfortunately, a lot of times it swells up and, you know, everything runs off after that. But if you, an hour later, run that same zone again, gosh, look what's going to happen. You get a little bit more water, a little bit deeper, you know, that type of thing. So think about that. We'll talk more about it in a minute. And then we have runtime. So for every station that you have in your landscape, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, you know, think in terms of the runtime for that area. So if I have an area where, gosh, all my yuccas are growing there, all my cactus are growing there, you know, all my plants that need to stay very, very, very dry, I might run it, you know, the same time I run the grass zone, the ground cover zone, the shrub zone. Might run it at the same time, but I'm sure not going to have the same run time. And so that run time becomes very, very important for you to program it for the plants, for the amount of water those plants need. And so whether it's ground cover or turf grass or shrubbery or flower bed, vegetable garden, whatever it is, it needs to be programmed for the water requirements of those plants. And we'll sort of show you how to figure that out. Okay, now the other thing is water days. So you go into there, and again, using those arrows, you know, you're going to put what days you are allowed to water. Now, this is the other thing I like right here. Older irrigation controllers do not have this, but this is called seasonal adjustment. So say December is sometimes our lowest rainfall month. Oh, and it sure was this year. And I don't think it rained at all in December this year. And so, or 2020, I should be saying, and January too, actually. And so right here is a way that I don't want to water. If I program my runtime to be 15 or 20 minutes, I most certainly don't want to do that in the dead of the winter because the plants don't need the water. So I could adjust this. And again, you use these arrows here, and you turn the dial to seasonal adjustment, and then you're going to put the 10%, 20%, 30%. And what that does, it reduces that runtime by the percentage that you put up here. And so if I thought that I needed to water, don't want to water the 20 minutes I normally water my lawn, I would put it on seasonal adjustment and probably put that at 20%, or sometimes it's by 5% increments. And you could put it 25% and go ahead and water in the winter, knowing that the water's going to enter the soil and not run off. If you watered it the normal amount, the plants aren't going to be using it. Now, the other thing I like about these newer, wait a minute, what did I do here? These newer controllers is this. This says manual water one station, and this says manual water all stations. Now, this is a great advantage to have this on your irrigation controller, because if I turn my dial to water run all stations, manual all station, and put it back on run, it's going to run every station for 2 minutes. And that gives me enough time to go around and look at every sprinkler system, every sprinkler head in that area, and say, oh, well, this is working good. This is where, this one's not working good. No wonder those plants aren't doing as good as the other plants that are getting a good amount of water. And I might pop that up and clean that head out and put that, clean the nozzle out, put the nozzle back in there and see if that corrects the situation, because a leaf or grass clipping or soil got down in there and cause that to happen. Now, of course, I wait till it finishes running. It's 2 minutes to be able to do that. But while it's running, I just mark which ones I'm going to go back to. And then, of course, don't forget we have a system off. After I've corrected anything that I want to correct myself, I always run that station again to make sure when I put a new nozzle on or I've cleaned out an old nozzle, when you tighten it down, I want to make sure it's facing the right direction, when I turn it back on. If it's not, I want you to know that riser, how do I back up here? That riser I'm backing up. This riser, you can grip that while the water's running, and while it's running, and then you can move that nozzle. Some move both ways, left or right. You can turn them, but some only move one way. And so you might get wet while you're doing that, but it's well worth it. So please understand how your controller works. Please understand that every manufacturer of every piece of irrigation equipment has the same goal in mind as we do teaching you, as Tarrant Regional Water District has teaching you, and that's water conservation in the landscape. And so they have a 1-800 number that you can call and have a technician speak to you. You can stand right there in front of your controller, talk to them on the phone, and they can help you program your controller. You can ask Tarrant Regional to send out their irrigation checkup irrigator, and he could show you all that. The main thing is help is available at a phone call, at a website, wonderful, wonderful website the irrigation companies have to show you how to do things like this. The other thing that is required is a rain and freeze sensor. Now, I think the actual state rules say a rain sensor, and what this does, it overrides your irrigation system coming on while it's raining or right after a rainfall. Now, up here in the northern part of Texas, we always also require a freeze sensor, and this is the freeze sensor right here, so your irrigation system won't go on during a freeze. I can't tell you how important both of these are, because it would be pretty embarrassing for your irrigation system to be running while it's raining or right after a rain. And I see this all the time. I see it all the time. And so this is a little cup right here, right in here. You can set this for the depth of what you want the irrigation system to override your controller. That's what it's about, overriding your controller. You can see that this is a wired one, but they also have wireless ones. This hooks to the sensor screw inside your irrigation controller. This is another type of rain and freeze sensor. This also measures ET, what is called ET, Evapo Transpiration, ET, evaporation of water from your soil and transpiration of water from your plants. And the reason why this is important is because the irrigation controllers that are ET controllers take this information and do wonderful, wonderful things. They might irrigate less, they might not irrigate at all. And so, you know, we love to get the emails from Tarrant Regional Water District and say, you know, it rains such and such, so you don't need to water as much as you usually do, or you don't need to water at all. And this is so important. Unless you're keeping a rain gauge out there, how do you know if it rained enough to get the water down that you want down? And so these are very, very important things. The other thing in figuring out how long your runtime needs to be, we need to understand the soil infiltration and percolation. This is measured in inches per hour. And most of us have clay. And most of us have a very small slope. Hopefully the storm water is sloping away from your house. And you can see the infiltration rate in inches per hour is 0.13 to 0.44 in clay soil. Now, in your flower beds, your shrub beds, your ground cover beds, anywhere you've amended the soil a lot, you know, in order to grow these things, and you keep a mulch there that decomposes and becomes part of the soil, you know, that doesn't mean the same. The infiltration right there is much, much increased, much increased because of that mulch that's continually decomposing. Doesn't allow that clay soil to become as compacted. You're not walking on it, so it's not coming compacted like it is in a lawn area. Of course, if you have a slope, that infiltration rate is even less. And so we've got to understand this aspect of the clay soil in this inches per hour. The actual goal of irrigation is to get water into the soil where the roots can use it. It's not to wet the plants themselves down, although there is canopy capture of irrigation water and rainwater. But the main thing is you want that water in the soil where the roots can use it. So if we have compacted soil, this is usually in a lawn area, you can hire a landscaper, or you can do it yourself by renting what is called an aerator. It sort of runs like a lawnmower, but these times right here, do you see this big clay plug? It's pulling these up, actually punching holes into your soil to get air and water in there better. Now, of course, clay soil, it's going to expand and close those holes. And so if you would have a bunch of compost ready to put on top of your lawn before those holes close up, the soil swells and close them up. What the advantage of that is it's like putting a fertilizer on there. You get an immediate reaction. This is usually done in the springtime, after your third mowing. You know, if you have compacted soil, or if your lawn looks really bad after the freeze we've had, this winter, this is a way of rejuvenating a lawn area. You would not do that in a ground cover area or a flower bed area or a shrub bed area, because if you're putting a mulch, annually, or some people put it twice, once in the spring and once in the fall, they put a mulch down, that decomposes and keeps the soil from getting compacted. And I know a lot of people put a lot of compost down before they put their sod down to make their lawn, but that's used up very, very, very quickly by the lawn. The compost turns into the nutrients that the plants need, and the microorganisms help with that process, but it's not there all the time. And so you could have buy bags of compost, or you could have a truckload of compost delivered to you. And so you can see this lawn there's a lot of damage next to the curb, up in this area right here from the freeze. Underneath the trees, not so bad. But what they're doing, that represents one wheelbarrow full of compost. They had it delivered and put on the driveway, and so they're spreading it all out, and then they're going to take a rake and rake that in. Now, if you can't rent the aerator, or if you can't get a landscaper in to do it, just putting it on top of your lawn is better than doing nothing, because it will rejuvenate this lawn very, very, very fast. Now, calculating the runtime. This is one of the most important things that you yourself can do. Instead of guessing at it, you want to do this. So the first thing you need to know is what your precipitation rate is. This is the rate in inches per hour that your water comes out of your sprinkler system. And Tarrant Regional Water District is giving you these catch cans. If you go by your library, they will give you a booklet with all the instructions about how to do it, but they're going to give you the catch cans too. And so I'll show a picture of it in a minute. And this is very important that we know that inches per hour, and therefore that helps us with this runtime a little bit. The other thing that goes into this also is the infiltration rate and the percolation rate. How long does it take the water to get down to 4 to 6 inches? This is what's good. This is what you want to do. And so how long does this take? And so if I wanted to put my catch cans out and I wanted it to run for, say 5 or 10 minutes, I can look at how much water is in those catch cans and see, and that's a time I want to keep in mind. So if it put out a 1/4 inch, or did it put out a 1/2 inch? Did it put out a 3/4 inch? How much did it put out? And that gives me this inches per hour. Now, also what the catch cans can do for you is figure out, is the distribution good? So if I put my catch cans out, I'm going to look at how much water is in there. I use tuna cans a lot. This is what Tarrant Regional Water District's going to give you. And, they're wonderful logos on here, but over here they have, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, an inch, so that you know exactly how much water is coming out. And if I put these cups over in an arrangement similar to, wait a minute, let me, like this, let's say, and here's my sprinkler head, and I'm going to put some cups out. And if this cup is full and overflowing, wow, that's a lot of water, because those cups are 1 inch. But this cup has hardly any in it. This cup has hardly any in it. What does that tell me about my distribution? And so what I have to figure out is why the sprinkler is not covering this whole area if it's supposed to be covering that area. So if it's filling up this one here, maybe this one here, maybe this one here, maybe this one here, that coverage has a lot to do with the even distribution of the water. And so you want it even as possible. And so you, again, need to check that nozzle and make sure it's throwing the water out the correct pattern and the correct distance. Nozzles wear out because we have calcium in our water. And so that might be a problem if it's 10 or 15 years old. And it's very, very easy not to buy a new sprinkler head. It's very, very easy to go buy a new nozzle, knowing the distance you have to throw the water and the pattern that you want it to go out, half circle, full circle, 3/4 circle, like that. And so very, very easy for you to do this. If you get the free irrigation checkup, they'll make suggestions like that, and it's something, you can do yourself. And then the other one is, how deep did the water go? How deep did it go? And did it start running off your lawn area before it all soaked in? That's what runoff means. The water didn't go into the soil. It started running out into the storm drain before it put all the water down that we need. And so using a screwdriver, a long screwdriver, I think this is either a 6-inch or 8-inch one. It's like sticking a toothpick in the cake to see if it's done. And you can see all that clay that comes up. You can see it went up to right about there. So that's what, if that's 8 inches, that's about 4 inches. That's how much water I had. It sort of stops below where the water didn't go down. Always wait about an hour after the irrigation turns off to do this, because the water keeps moving down. Water moves very horizontally in clay soil also. And so, but it takes a while to move down because the soil's so tight because of the small particles of clay. So you can do this irrigation checkup yourself. The little booklet that you will pick up at the library will make all these suggestions how you can do it yourself, and or you call or go to the website and sign up for the free checkup or evaluation. And one of the things about this is the irrigator comes out, makes an appointment with you by email or by phone. It's so important that you be there, because he can educate you about, if we do this, it'll be more efficient. If we do this, it'll be more efficient. And efficiency is the same as saving water, saving money. That's what it's all about, is saving water, saving money. When we were talking about this with some of the cities, we made flags, find it, flag it, and fix it. A lot of people don't like leaving flags out in the lawn, because particularly if you have kids or pets, you know, that can be a hazard. But, you know, you can draw a sketch on a piece of paper on a clipboard and, you know, sort of draw it, and here's my sprinkler heads, and this one's working good and this one's not working good, and, you know, go back and fix it that way. Some people use popsicle sticks and stick them in the ground at the heads that aren't working well. High pressure. Is this a sprinkle or is this a mist? And if the wind's blowing, if it's a hot day, how much of that's going to evaporate? How much of that's going to blow away? And so this is why high pressure is not good. We want it to sprinkle. And also, they've changed the landscape design. You know, here's the sidewalk. What is a sprinkler head doing here in the composted granite buffer, you know, and not, it needed to be moved or it needed to be capped off. You don't want to irrigate areas where you don't want things to grow. Unfortunately, things will grow, mainly weeds, without irrigation, but this is what's called high pressure. It's not sprinkling, it's misting, and you're going to lose that water. Here's another example. That's another example. If your sprinkler system is going off and looking like this, I bet about 50% is blowing away and evaporating. And look at all the water going into the storm drain. Look here, and going to, I don't know what that garden hose is doing and putting a hose in the sprinkler here, but hey, who knows, who knows. But all that water is very, very wasted, and most cities consider it a finable offense, not if your storm drain's wet, but if water's running like a stream down through the storm drain, because again, that's wasting drinking water, wasting water. Too high pressure. My daughter took this because of the rainbow. She thought it was real cute, and it is real cute, but it's again going to be a way waste of water. So when we talk about new technology, there's several things that we want to share with you about that. And this is a pressure regulated head. It says pressure regulated sprinkler, and more irrigators and more cities are requiring this. Not in the state rules, but it could be in your city rules. So when your irrigator goes to get the irrigation permit, you know, to install your irrigation system, the city will inform them that, no, you need to use pressure regulated heads. And the reason why this is, then you're not going to get that misting if the pressure changes on the city main line going into your property. And then this is a pressure regulator like the one I showed you where I brought it up into the picture of a sprinkler system. This goes right after the backflow prevention device, and it regulates the pressure, not into your house, because everything in your house, all your like washing machine and dishwashing machine, all that have pressure regulators in them. Otherwise, you'd hear that thump, thump, thump as they come on. So that's not a problem, but it is outside in your landscape. And so the other rule change that benefits everyone is not to put the sprinkler heads right up next to the sidewalk. You know, put them 4 to 6 inches, or the curb, put them 4 to 6 inches away from any impervious surface like a sidewalk, a driveway, a curb, and it stops the back wash. You know, a lot of times when your heads pop up and they're right next to the curb, you get a lot of water out into the storm drain. Now notice the storm drain is wet, but the water's not running like a stream of water. And that's what the waste is. If it gets wet, that's okay. The wind is probably displacing it. You know, I think that we need a windy city description too in our area, just like Chicago has. But this can happen, and don't worry about it. Now, if ever you redo your sprinkler system, the irrigator will move those for you. There's a swing arm, very, very easy way. You don't have to dig everything back up, but there's a way of moving those heads. And boy, it needs to happen here. This is where the irrigation water keeps hitting the fence. I've seen this on the side of buildings also. They've got the wrong nozzle on these heads, and it's ruining, it's destroying that fence. And what a shame, because I know these fences are very, very, very expensive. And it's an easy fix again that an irrigator can come in and put those the nozzles that water sideways, not towards the fence, not towards the sidewalk. They water back like this. And that's, again, just a little tiny trench they have to do, put that swing arm in there. And the same thing on the side by the street. If that has not happened, and I've seen water tear up sidewalks because they have the wrong nozzle in there, again, that's an easy fix. Any irrigator, or you could actually do it yourself. We talk about that in our irrigation quick fix class. Okay, the other new technology we could talk about is this is a spray head. It's a little misty, but you know, it might do the job, might not all evaporate, but you know, the idea is to get it into the ground. And you can see this head right here, this nozzle right here is putting water out a little bit differently. It's putting it out. This is called a multi-stream rotor. It's just a nozzle change. This is a nozzle where you could unscrew the spray nozzle and you could put this in. Of course, it increases the efficiency tremendously because it puts the water out in heavier droplets, so you're not going to have so much evaporating in the wind displacing it. It's a nozzle change, not a sprinkler. This is something you could do yourself. Of course, before you go buy those nozzles, you need to take notes and draw out your sprinkler system and see how many full circle patterns, half circle patterns, quarter circle patterns like that you need in order to do this. The manufacturer's research, what was backed up by university research, says it increases the efficiency by 33%. So you have to know the pattern and you have to know the distance you want the water thrown out of that nozzle. A great new technology that all of us might want to look at. The other one is drip irrigation. Now, this is not new by any means. I've been using it in my greenhouse for, gosh, 20 years probably. Yeah, probably 20 years. And vineyards and orchards have been using it, you know, for 30 years probably. That's how they so efficiently water their trees and their grapevines and orchard, grape vineyards. And so, you know, this is a quick conversion, a little bit of digging involved and a little bit of trenching involved. These trenchers can be rented from rental places, but they can also be rented from irrigators, or you can hire an irrigator to make the change for you. The trenching is only done in a lawn area. In a shrub and ground cover area, you can put all the drip irrigation can go above ground, and then after you put all your plants in, then you can cover that with mulch. And very, very, very efficient, very efficient. And everyone that makes the drip irrigation tubing, Netafim, Rainbird, Toro, they have great tutorials on their websites to show you how to do that yourself. The other new technology is this, the irrigation controllers that measure and irrigate by ET. So this is the same controller I showed you earlier, but this is my ET module that I'm putting to the controller. This is my weather station, And I've got that all hooked together in the sensor screws on the back side of the controller in order to do this. And so if it's going to rain, if it's going to freeze, it overrides the system going on. There are also ones that don't have the weather station on site, but it has historical data in there. And some actually talk to a website and get the most current information from the website. The other one is a soil moisture sensor. And this is a wireless one where you actually stick it in the soil. There's 2 prongs that go down in there, sends a little tiny electrical field. And if the 2 prongs, it reads it real fast, that means the soil's wet, and it overrides your sprinkler system from going on. There's a little computer chip in here, and it talks remotely to it. And again, there's going to be a module like this that you hook to your irrigation controller in order to have it speak to each other to do that. Okay, I know I'm going out of time, but a lot of people don't understand about the subsurface drip line to go into your lawn area. So I just wanted to show you this real quickly, how wonderful that could be for you in those areas, those narrow areas where you lose a lot of water. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. It puts the water out very, very slowly under low pressure. And so it's looks very, very nice. This is 90 days. Of course, this is summertime. Winter, it wouldn't be that quick. The cycle and soak irrigation schedule I was telling you about. Of course, you have to determine your runtime. You have to determine that for each zone. Not going to be the same. You know, my ground cover bed on the south side of my house, I've got it scheduled to irrigate for 10 minutes, and it works there. It works there. But my lawn area, you know, no, I got it scheduled to do 20 minutes. Every zone does not have to have the same runtime. You need to get your catch cans out, your screwdriver out, or you can dig a hole too, you know, to see how fast and how far that water goes into it. The main way you want to use this is your lawn area, and particularly slope areas. You want to run this. Now, a lot of people say you could make your run time as little as 5 minutes. I have one irrigator said, no, he can, on clay soil, he'll put his at 3 minutes, you know, and run it 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 start times. But this is the idea, to run it in these areas 2 or 3 short cycles, you know, whatever that needs to be, instead of 1 long cycle. And so in my front, I do 2. And so in my front yard, instead of putting 20 minutes on there, I have 10 minutes on there. And so at 6 o'clock in the morning, it runs it for 10 minutes. And not 6 o'clock, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it runs it for 10 minutes. And then the irrigation system comes back on at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it runs for 10 more minutes. And so you have to sort of get out your piece of paper and sort of figure out, this is my run time and how many cycles do I want to do, and then program that run time for those. Remember, it says start times here. Now, if you have a real old controller and it doesn't have all these bells and whistles on it, might be a good time to get a new controller. And, you know, our governor has passed a rule that he has a weekend, like we have this buy school clothes weekend and school supplies weekend, tax-free. EPA has an appliance weekend where you can buy appliances, you know, sales tax-free. Well, we have an irrigation free sales tax weekend too. And it's all your irrigation equipment, which includes your controllers. And so it might be a good time to look when that weekend and get that weekend and get a new controller. You also might check with your various cities and see if they are offering a discount. If you update your controller, sometimes they have a rebate for you. You might check on that too. Please understand, these are your most important things. You've got to understand your controller and your sprinkler system. Your water utility website is your most important. Save Tarrant County Water, or Save Tarrant Water waterisawesome.com. Both of these have a lot of information for you on there. Texas Smartscape is maintained by the North Central Texas Council of Government. These are all water pictures, how tall, how wide, everything, colors, everything, flowers, everything is on here with pictures. So if you don't know what kind of landscape plants to put in your landscape for water saving, this will go through that for you. And then Aggie Horticulture, of course, is another one. Lots and lots of information and pictures there. The Tarrant County Master Gardeners have a help desk downtown Fort Worth. And here's their phone number and here's their email. You can call them and discuss with them some of your problems you're having. That might lead to them emailing you some information. They might answer it right there on the spot for you. Very, very, very good resources. The Texas Smartscape, gosh, we started that website way back in 1999 when we first started talking about landscape water conservation, and all kinds of pictures. Lots of horticulturists and landscapers have added pictures and added pictures. Wonderful website. Earth Kind Landscaping is the same thing under Aggie Horticulture. And again, lots and lots of pictures very specific to the area where you live. This, of course, is very specific to North Central Texas because North Central Texas Council of Government runs that for us. And then, of course, Save Tarrant Water. This is where you sign up for your weekly advice. If you want to hear from them how much you should water, your free sprinkler checkup. And then they have a list of green pros. These are landscapers and irrigators who have taken extra educational classes from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension and Tarrant Regional Water District. They have a list of those people who've taken these extra classes all about landscape water conservation. So now, Heather, I know I've gone over a little bit. I'm sorry. Is there any questions?
Yes, there absolutely is. Let's get to these questions real quick. All right, everyone, if you have any questions right now for Dotty, go ahead and type them there in the chat box, and we'll get to them. Let's see what we've got here. All right, someone is asking, okay, if you do have one of those controllers that's connected to the weather station or to like an ET device, do you think it's completely okay to just let it decide, when you water, or is it better to go ahead and look and see what's happening and monitor it a little bit?
Well, I mean, if you have an ET controller, that's the whole idea is it's going to do that for you. But it's like anything else. It needs monitoring. You need to make sure it's working correctly. And the rain and freeze sensor, same thing. So I can pour water into my rain sensor and then try to turn my irrigation controller on. And if it doesn't come on, I know that it's still working. They're not going to last forever. The controllers seem to, the sprinkler systems do, the valves seem to work forever, but your rain and freeze sensor, where it's out in the weather, might need replacing every, maybe 10 or 15 years. And then if you have a can of air, like you blow off your computer keyboard or your laptop, you can spray that on your freeze sensor and see if it will override the irrigation system coming on. There's ways of checking it.
That's interesting.
But the ET ones, I have some people who swear they're the best investment they ever made, and then I have some people said, I want to control it myself.
Right, yeah, and I've seen a few studies done on those that show that some of them actually sometimes end up using a lot more water than people normally would, because sometimes the ET shows, in the heat of the summer that it's hot, and so it'll crank it up a lot. So you definitely want to make sure you're not overwatering according to that ET.
Yeah.
Okay,
in our clay soils, overwatering is a big problem.
Right, yeah, definitely. Okay, the next question is, okay, if you've already got an existing sprinkler system in your lawn, is it wiser to switch everything over to the drip irrigation or just change out the nozzles to be more efficient?
Well, the huge investment, if you put in drip irrigation, of either your time or the irrigator's time, You know, the nozzle change, you can definitely do yourself. And it's still an investment because though, particularly if you're going to change it to the multi-stream nozzles, you know, if I go buy a regular spray nozzle to replace a spray nozzle that's worn out, not working good, if I go do that, it's $1.75. If I go and replace it with the multi-stream nozzles that put water out more efficiently, you know, that's a $3.50 to $4.50 investment. And you have to do the whole zone if you're going to change to those multi-stream. If you're going to convert to drip irrigation again, you have to do the whole zone. So if you want to try drip irrigation, I would try a shrub bed, a flower bed, a ground cover bed first, convert that first and see how much you like it. See that you can do the work yourself. And we do hold a drip irrigation class. I don't know if we have any scheduled now, but you could check with Heather on the Save Tarrant Water.
Yeah, we'll probably do one later in the summer or so.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you're installing that drip irrigation where you're trenching in your lawn, can you do that if you have trees in your lawn, or are those roots just a no-no?
Yeah, you know, that's a huge, huge determination, you know, because yes, you're trenching 4 inches deep. You're not trenching to put PVC pipe down, you know, 12 inches. You're doing it 4 inches. That's all your drip irrigation needs to be, is under the lawn area 4 inches. So yeah, you have to consider that. You're not going to be cutting the big, gigantic anchoring roots down 4 inches unless you go very, very close to your tree. If you want to put drip irrigation around your tree, you could use the drip irrigation that stays on the surface instead of the subsurface tubing, and you could put mulch over that, and that will help protect the tree, those anchoring roots and everything. So there's ways to get around that. In fact, new irrigation systems, when they go in a new home where the trees have just been planted, require drip irrigation. They used to allow bubblers, but some cities only allow drip irrigation tubing around your new trees and requires you to keep a mulch bed around that tree. And I think Dallas is one of the cities that changed their rules to say that. I don't think Fort Worth did. Check about that.
Yeah, definitely. And everyone look at the chat. I put all the information about the city of Fort Worth in the chat. So if you are a Fort Worth resident,
thank you.
Go ahead and look in the chat. There's a link there to all of the restrictions that they have, and it tells you what your watering days are and all that good stuff. So make sure to check that out and make sure you know what and then if you don't live in Fort Worth, of course, check your local city regulations because they can be different. Okay, someone is asking, when are we going to do a hands-on class, because they need to actually get their hands on this. So we do generally do this in person, but of course we're all in COVID lockdown right now. But as soon as things get back to normal, hopefully maybe next year or so, Dottie usually does do a class for us where she brings things in and people can actually touch them and see with their hands what is actually going on. So definitely just keep a lookout maybe next year or so, and we'll be able to do something like that. Maybe hopefully later this year, but probably next year. Okay, and Dottie, I wanted to just point out one other thing. So you said that changing those nozzles is maybe like $1, $2, maybe up to $5, right?
If it's just the spray nozzles, it's going to be about $1.50, $1.75, maybe up to $2. But now the multi-stream rotors that put water out at a heavier droplets, they run $3.50 to $5.50, depending if they're full circle, half circle, like that.
Okay, so they're a little bit more expensive.
Well worth the investment. Well worth the investment.
It's still a pretty cheap investment, even if you have quite a few heads, and you'll save that money over time on your water bill as long as you decrease that corresponding amount, right? So if you're getting 33% more efficient, decrease your watering by 33%, and then you'll start seeing that savings, right?
Oh, really? Oh, really? Yes. It pays for itself probably during the summer, the first month or maybe month and a half. It'll pay for itself. And besides, you can do it yourself. You don't have to hire an irrigator. You know, an irrigator, you know, they're licensed irrigator. They go through all this training. You know, they have to keep their insurance. I mean, it's just a very, very expensive thing, just like a plumber, just like an electrician. And so if you're going to change the nozzles out yourself, you're going to save that, $100 an hour labor fee. And you can buy those at Home Depot, at Lowe's, any place that sells irrigation equipment.
Okay. And is that what you recommend for people to just go to their like home improvement store or whatever and look in the irrigation section?
But I recommend they do their homework first. So it's a one trip to Home Depot, not 5, So turn your sprinkler system on, have a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pencil, and start making a sketch and writing down how many half circles, how many full circles you're going to need, and then go purchase that. Keep the receipt just in case. Oh, and the length you want the water to be thrown. You want it to be thrown 10 feet, 12 feet, 14 feet, 15 feet. How far does it need to spray? Because if you're going to do the nozzle change, you might as well get it correct that it's head to head instead of overlapping in the middle if you have an older system that use that other pattern method.
Okay, and do I need to match the nozzle brand with the sprinkler brand, or could I get a different brand?
No. But if you have a very, very old system, some of those risers have a male or female thing. They usually have male, and very rare do you see female ones anymore. But I don't know how old everyone's sprinkler system is. And remember, after you put those new nozzles on there, you need to turn it on and make sure it's facing the right direction. And remember, you don't touch the nozzle again, you touch the riser that pops up with the nozzle on it to get it to face the right direction.
Right, and you can just rotate that with your hand, right?
With your hand.
Okay. All right. It looks like that is all the questions that we had for tonight. I just want to say that my house was built in 1962, and I still have the sprinkler controller from 1962, and it's not even like electric, it's like a dial. But I can still set it. I don't have seasonal adjustment, I don't have ET, none of that obviously, but I can still set my minutes and my zones. So yeah, you can still do it. Even if you have a really old controller, you can still follow our watering advice, or, change your heads and set your controller. All right. And we're getting lots of good thank yous in chat too. So a lot of people are saying, thank you so much, Dottie, and that they've learned a whole lot today.
Well, thank you, Heather, and Tarrant Regional Water District for lining all these classes up. I think they're very helpful for everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just to close out, just make sure you go to safetarrantwater.com or safefortworthwater.org to check out all these resources that we're talking about. And then also, like I said, check your email after you're done here, and we'll send out information about how you can get one of these free sprinkler test kits. And they have those catch cans in there that Dottie was talking about so that you can accurately test your sprinkler system. And we've got instructions in there as well, like she said, an instruction booklet. And those handouts are also available for download. So make sure you download that PDF if you're not planning on going over to your library to check out that book or that booklet or whatever. And by checkout, I mean take home forever. It's not a checkout thing. You just get to have it for free. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Dottie, for sharing all of your wisdom with us. And everyone have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.